5.2 million unique IP addresses. We also put all of the emails from the device online. In May of 2022, we launched BidenLaptopEmails.com. And so what the goal is long term is we're creating a permanent repository for this data. And again, there's not been one legitimate allegation of forgery. In fact, hilariously, during my 9-hour deposition with Hunter's $1,200 an hour attorney, Abby Lowell, they couldn't find one. In fact, I spend more time dispelling myths about Hunter on Twitter than I do anything else. So it's funny that there actually shouldn't be any reason why Hunter's attorney hates me, because there's a lot of false things that I have to correct about him all the time. Katie and I were talking on the way in about, are we sure that Hunter didn't do this on purpose as a sort of cry out, right? That, hey, I've had a dad who's used me as a bagman my whole life. I lost my mother when I was 2 years old. I'm addicted to crack cocaine. I wasn't the favorite son. My brother died of cancer, tragically. There's no evidence for that. All the evidence in the world points to these are deeply, deeply troubled individuals. One of the things that's particularly gotten under Joey's skin, we know this for a fact because I have a buddy who's in the Secret Service, they go to Camp David to talk about us. In fact, that's where they plan their lawsuit against us. One thing that's really getting under Joey's skin is we weren't the first to do this, we transcribed a journal belonging to the U.S. President's daughter. She was 39 at the time in rehab down in Delray Beach, Florida. It's in our report. And she said in her journal, she was 39 at the time when she wrote this. Most people think, they hear diary and they're like, well, why are you transcribing a 9-year-old's diary? It's like, no, this is a functioning adult. In fact, she was the executive director, in quotation marks, of the Delaware Center for Justice while she was writing this journal, right? It's like a fully grown adult female. And she's saying that she took probably inappropriate showers with her dad and that she was molested as a child. So you have Hunter, who's obviously a lost soul. You have Ashley. So you really have something deep in. Remember, they have different mothers, right? The only thing that ties Ashley and Hunter together is Joey. So it stands to reason that something is deeply wrong in that family, that they can produce these types of people. Lest you think this isn't important, and that these are just the children of the president, the entire report is going back to how Joe is overseeing this operation. In business, for example, Joey got the prosecutor fired in Ukraine that was investigating Burisma. Now, you're going to hear on television Dan Goldman, a representative from New York City, say that the entire Western world wanted Viktor Shokin gone. It's a total lie. There was a memo, interagency memo released in October of 2021 that proves that an interagency task force approved of the job Shokin was doing. And guess what? This interagency memo was signed off on in November of 2015. When did Joey make the call to Poroshenko? I'm sure you've all seen this skit, right? He said, if you don't fire the prosecutor, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a, he got fired. He was at CFR when he was bragging about it. He acted like sort of like a 7th grade boy bragging about kissing the hot girl in class. But basically, we know that he changed U.S. public policy. The interagency memo, meaning State Department, the IMF delegation, because the loan came from the IMF, we know that they approved of the job the Prosecutor General was doing, and thus they were going to renew the $1 billion loan guarantee. But then the week later, we have a leaked call between Joey and Poroshenko, shaking him down, saying Viktor Shokin has to go. So this entire argument that Dan Goldman is making, and I want to go, there's a lot of people to attack, right, in the Republican side, who I hate actually more, and then the Democrats. But I like going after Goldman because he's sort of the poster child. He's the high IQ, bon vivant liberal, right? He's full of total BS. That whole story, Shokin getting fired, Hunter getting $166,000 per month, splitting it down the middle with Devin Archer. That is all laid out in this dossier. I gained 25 pounds. I barely left my home office in Illinois. And that's really what I did for over a year. And that, along with the dealings with the Chi-Coms, particularly 2 deals, CEFC and BHR, beyond election integrity, there's no more important public policy issue, I'm begging of you. If your president is compromised by foreign powers, even if he wants to do the right thing, he literally can't. going back to the creation of the CIA, blackmail is always used against subjects, right? Whether they're America's enemies on paper, right? Or her adversaries. It's a way to keep people in line. It's making sure that they do not have the agency to do what you don't want them to do. So it's a little bit of a different thesis. I, in my bones, believe that Joe is evil, right? But let's say that I didn't believe that, and I think that he wants to do the right thing even 15% of the time for the country. I showed cattle as a little boy, and I don't know if you've ever walked with an animal with a halter or not, but once they start acting up, you just yank it a little bit, right? And they'll behave. That is exactly the situation we have right now in the White House, and we prove it with this dossier. How do I prove it? Very simple. Gong Wendong, Mervyn Yan, Ye Jingming, Patrick Ho, all of these people paid the Bidens for nothing. You always hear about the fact that that President Trump has hotels in other lands, right? You hear about it all the time. There's definitely opportunity for corruption, especially surrounding his son-in-law, who I loathe and who I fought all the time in the White House, Jared Kushner. But nevertheless, at least they are offering a product and service. No one can articulate what the Bidens were good at for the $6.8 million, and that's just what we know of. We got under the skin so badly of Joey's power of attorney named Melvin Monzak that he deleted his law firm's website. He's 82 years old. He's been Joey's power of attorney since 1968. They went into law together, or 1986, excuse me, for power of attorney. They went into law together in 1968 after they both graduated. And he's basically been the silent mover and shaker. This guy's from Rhode Island. He's very discreet. He has very little online footprint. He's the registered agent for all of their shell companies. And the only reason why we know about this guy is because we have the